Welcome, everyone. This is Abby Gooch at the Intuition to Income Global Summit. We are so glad you are here, and this is just such a joyful, miraculous journey. So thank you for being a part of it. And today I'm going to introduce you to another very dear friend of mine who I recently met but feel like I've known for lifetimes. And she's an extremely successful businesswoman as well. And she's just incredible. I actually want to tell you how I met her. I was at an Alex Mendozian event, and she was sitting right behind me. And I don't even remember what she said, other than basically energetically, I love you, I really see who you are, and I want to help you. And I was just like, wow. And then she mentioned, you know, she does seminars, and being a speaker, of course, that was interest to me because I'm always, you know, looking to build my community. And so there was just such a deep heart connection, and that is why I wanted her to come on, because not only did she see me, but I saw her, and I saw the love that she has, and just who she is just somebody who truly inspires people to be more of who they are because she sees them. So I want her to have the opportunity to see all of you and help you all step into your greatness, and just let her share how she does that. So Jenny, if you can introduce yourself to our audience, I would love that.
Hi, Abby. It is so good to see you again. Oh, what a beautiful intro. Yes, and that described my experience too. Seeing you, it was like this instant recognition of just this joyful soul. And as I've told you many times, you are like joy personified for me. You are joy in a body, and I love it. Yes. So what I do, I help, in my real world job, I help speakers, trainers, coaches, consultants, and other experts get their message out to the world through events. So seminars, workshops, teleseminars, and webinars. That's what I do officially as my job. But there's just so much more. As we're here, souls on the planet, and doing our journeys, my job is really to support people and help them be the best of who they are. It just so happens that I work with people who have chosen that path, and that's how I help them.
Mm-hmm. So can you describe a little bit more how you're helping them and how you use your intuition to do so?
Well, sure. When I meet with people, they will start to describe what it is that they have for a vision of their life. And it always starts, usually talking about their seminars. People book an event and then they realize, oh my gosh, I have no idea how to actually get people into the room or onto the phone. And then they go online and they reach out and they find me. So I help them start to draw that vision out, because I always start with, what is it that you picture? What is it that you want to create in your life? And I see events and other information products, because to me an event is just a way that you're packaging your information as a way that they are getting their message out to the world. So I help them get people into the seat, attract them with the right message. But on a deeper level, what's really happening is they're here to fulfill a role and to connect with people and make an impact. So I help them figure out how to connect that bridge between them and their clients and their students, and help their students recognize them. And then it just sort of ripples out as they get to connect with those people, and then they deliver their message and their training. Their impact just ripples out through the world. And I love it. So intuition, how do I use that? Well, part of it is really listening to what they're saying when they're talking about what their vision is, because sometimes they'll get a big dream, but a lot of times it's really small. They don't see how big it can be. So I'll keep asking questions until they've painted a really big, beautiful picture of what they want to have in the world. And then I help them figure out, where are they now and what's stopping them. And a lot of times, yes, are the practical things like, oh, we need a better system for generating leads. But in those conversations, quite often things will pop up that have technically nothing to do with marketing, but it has everything to do with, your journey and your growth as a person. So I find that although I work with people on the marketing side of things, a lot of times it spills over just into more personal development. And how I use my intuition is just kind of tuning into the conversation and feeling into them. Through the training I've done personal development-wise, I've really learned to see every person, and that includes myself, as perfect as we are. We're all unique, but we're all just divine. Right? And that has been something I've really had to learn and understand myself and accept in myself. But when I go out and meet people, I really try to take that mindset too, that we are all just divinity in bodies. and look at how perfect we are. So I try to bring that to the conversation as too. And when you approach somebody and you hold that space for them, I mean, some people are there already, but others, can feel that and they step up into it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's absolutely beautiful. And I knew you were going to say that, just about the perfection of who we are. And when we work from that space of wholeness, it is easy to be seen and to see other people, when we recognize that in ourselves. And Jenny's actually my copywriter, and she does this through writing. She bridges the gap also with her ability to put into words what it is your vision is. And I feel like sometimes that's one of the most difficult things to do. If you were to think about your vision and how expansive, or maybe it's just your next step, whatever it is, and then how to bring that, into the physical, Jenny just has this amazing gift with that. And so I wanted to ask you, how you use your intuition, because I know you're tuning in at a much deeper level to people, because I've seen your work, and it's incredible.
Thank you. Yes, and it's something, in the conversations I've had with you, you've made me much more aware of how much I do use my intuition. I had a natural gift for copywriting, and I used my intuition to figure that out, to tell you the truth. Maybe we'll talk about that in a little bit. But yes, when I work with clients, a lot of times it is just kind of feeling into what the message is supposed to be. Early in my career, I would do a lot of thinking, what are the benefits and what are the features, and you try to map it out. But now when I work with clients, I just sort of feel it. A client of mine actually asked, what are you doing when you're writing copy, because it works so well, and how do you do that? Like, how do you know which theme to take or which approach to take when writing an email? And for me, it is just tuning into those little, very subtle messages that you get. When I sit down to write copy and map out, let's say we want to do 10 emails in a campaign, I get away from my computer. I go outside, because that's where I can really tune in and feel myself. It calms me down. It helps me feel more connected. And I just sit there with a notepad and a pen and wait for inspiration to strike. So I've learned to create that calm so that I can hear and feel my intuition. And then it's paying attention to, like, the little bubbles. Because I've learned, and I don't know if this is true for everyone, but for me at least, my intuition is very quiet. It's like the little whisper, a flash of a thought, just a feeling. And I've learned to kind of grab those and at least jot a note about them when I'm writing, so that I can get a sense of what do I need to say, or which approach should I take when writing an email, let's say.
Yeah. It's true, when we're relaxed, we're receptive. And so we're not in our thinking mind, we're in our intuitive mind.
Yeah, and that's how I do it. And now, as I'm teaching other people how to write copy, what the feedback that I get from them is when I can distill it down into a form or a checklist or a list of questions, it helps them. It helps them think through all the options. And that's a good place to start when you're learning how to translate your message into words, that you have to put out to the world, because when you said it's hard, it is hard. It can be really hard. I find it hard to write copy for myself as well sometimes. So I'll do that. I'll teach them. I'll give them the checklist, the forms, the worksheets to fill out to figure it out. But for me, it's just kind of a launching place, because if you really want to get better at it, you sit down and you need to turn that editor off in your voice, in your head, that's saying, oh, that's not right, or it's not perfect, it's not the exact right way to say this, and just start to go with what bubbles up. And there are some techniques I've learned that have been really helpful for that. And if we get to it, I'd love to share those too.
Oh yeah, please, and feel free at any time.
Okay.
If that's bubbling up for you, go for it.
Bubble up, right? God, let's follow our intuition, right?
So, mess around.
What a thought. So yes, if you're writing marketing copy for yourself, because it is important, if you have a business and you're trying to connect with your clients or your students, those words are the bridge. They're the energetic bridge that help attract them to you. So the way that you can tap into, what is you're being guided to say intuitively is really get past that editor in your mind. And a great technique I've found for that is this little timer here. I use this all the time. It's just a little kitchen timer. And the way you do it, you sit down and set the timer for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and you just have to write. You turn it on and you write as fast as you can. And if you hear the editor in your voice saying, oh, that's not right, it's not perfect, nope, shh, 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 Tell it to be quiet and just type, I don't know what to say, I hate doing this, whatever it is, but you have to keep writing as quickly as possible. And you can train yourself to just ignore the voice. Like when you read my draft copy, my true draft copy, it has fragments of sentences. It has like 3 different ways to start the sales letter. I just dump it all onto the page because I'm listening to this voice, this very quiet voice in my head that I can both kind of hear and kind of feel. And it'll be shooting all sorts of ideas at me, but it gets me past the thinking voice in my head, so I'm tuning into my intuition. So that's one technique I use that works really well, is use that little timer to just sit down and write as fast as you can. Tell yourself it doesn't matter if it's any good. I will clean it up later. Just write as fast as you can. And then another technique is to start off that writing session by picking 3 nonsense words. Like look around your room and pick 3 items and write those 3 words down. And then to kick off your writing, start with a 5-minute writing session. Those 3 words that you've chosen, completely random words, have to be in the first sentence that you use. And it can be crazy things like dog food, banana, and chocolate, and you have to come up with a sentence that includes all 3 of those. And then you just go from there. And it sounds really silly. I've heard this from a couple of different instructors, learn this technique. But it's crazy. Like you just dive right into the marketing writing, and it works well.
Yeah, well, I feel like you're tapping into the subconscious mind, right? You know, when you're using those abstract words, the conscious mind doesn't get it, but 80% of us is unconscious anyway, so I feel like you're working with that subtle energy field. Is that true?
Yeah, that's a very nice way of saying it. Much clearer, but it works well.
I know how your crazy works.
So good to know somebody does.
Absolutely. The new crazy is normal. So.
Yeah, right. That's good.
Yeah, very cool. So, Jenny, I guess I'm just being reminded of, you told me a story when you first got started with your copywriting business, that your intuition very much guided you on your career path. And I don't remember all of it, but I'd love for you to share, because I remember you had said that it would be really applicable to this interview. So can you share a little bit about that?
You bet. So I went to journalism school at the University of Wisconsin at Madison. I grew up in the area, and I knew that was where I was going to go to school. And about 2 years in, I figured I just had this feeling I should be doing journalism. Because when I went to school, I had plans to be a molecular biologist who was bilingual in Spanish. And I don't know why. I was really good at science. But I just had this feeling when I heard a friend of mine talk about her advertising classes, oh, I should check out journalism school. And so that is what I had my major in. And the funny thing was, I was excruciatingly shy. I mean, we would get these assignments to like call the mayor's office and write an article, and it would take me literally an hour. I'd stand in front of the phone for an hour listening to my pump-up music and trying to get excited enough to call. So the whole time I knew crystal clear I was supposed to do a journalism degree. Mm-hmm. And my conscious mind was like, why? This is crazy. You don't like to talk to people. You're terrified of, you like to write, but actually interacting with people is horrid. But I got it anyway. And I thought I could either do community newspapers, work in the journalism field, or go into book publishing. So I graduated with my degree, a double major actually. And about 6 weeks after graduation, I saw a notice about a writers' conference that was being held at the UW. And I went to that, and they had some really good sessions. But one session, one little time slot, none of the sessions really appealed to me. So I didn't know where to go. I ended up just walking into a room that was open because there were some seats, and there was a copywriter talking. And in the movies, how you'll see the room will go dark and the spotlight shines down on the person you're supposed to be with the rest of your life. It was like that crystal clear. This is what you're supposed to do. And it was awesome, because I need really clear signs sometimes. So I was like, okay, finally, I know I'm supposed to be a copywriter. That's awesome. And I distinctly remember I went home and wrote my mom a letter. She was living out of state at the time. Wrote her this letter saying, I finally figured out what I'm supposed to do with this journalism degree that I have. So that's how I got started in copywriting. And I ended up going to work in the not-for-profit world in Chicago, which is a great city for not-for-profit work. But at the same time, I knew I was going to start doing freelance copywriting. So about a year into my career, I opened up shop as a freelance copywriter. And I started moonlighting on the side. So I'd go to my day job and do magazine editing. And then at night I was doing copywriting for small businesses in the Chicago area. Yeah. So it was, it worked. And I knew that someday I would be self-employed because in college, I mean, actually even back as far as high school, I knew someday I was going to be self-employed. A lot of people in my dad's family have their own businesses, and I just knew that someday that would be what I wanted. When I had kids, I wanted to be at home with them. So someday I was going to have my own business. And after about 4 years in the not-for-profit world, I saw this ad about marketing seminars for a community college in the area. And as soon as I saw it, I thought, oh, that's my next job. That's what I need to do. There was something about seminars that really spoke to me. And whether it was because I love learning things, that's really great if you want to be a copywriter or a journalist, you have to be curious. But something about it just spoke to me. So I knew intuitively that was what I needed to do my next step. And I applied for the job. I got it. I found out later that they had already hired somebody for the position, but they liked my interview and the letter that I wrote to them so much they created a second position so they could hire me to do copywriting, which, worked pretty well for me. And I did that for about 2 years. And then I quit my job, decided I was doing freelance copywriting full-time, then found out I was pregnant with my daughter like 2 weeks later, so that all lined up. I was very guided as to when it was time to quit. Worked out well. And then the next step in my career being guided intuitively is I saw a promotion for the Guerrilla Marketing Coach Certification Program that Mitch Meyerson runs. And for whatever reason, that spoke to me. And I signed up for it, and who did I meet in that class but Alex Mondosian? He and I were the two copywriters of the bunch. So it was interesting to meet him, and I ended up buying his very first product that he had just come out with like the year before, the Market with Postcards or Marketing with Postcards. I don't remember the exact name. And I debated about it and felt, no, it's something that you should buy, so I bought it, and that's where we really connected, was during that course. So it's like I've been guided step by step by step to meeting the right people. Alex has been just wildly instrumental in my career. I don't stay in touch very closely a lot, but whenever we reconnect, it's like no time has passed whatsoever. And at that event where you and I met, I told him he's the one, like whenever he shows up, there's some major shift that's happening in my life. Because he's the one who he makes these connections, so he'll make a connection with a big client. For example, Lisa Williams is the marketing director for Jack Canfield's company. I met her when Alex introduced me to her when she worked for Mark Victor Hansen. So it's like if you learn to tune in to taking those actions, even if they don't make sense, a lot of times I find it puts you in connection with the right people. Going to an event about Google Hangouts. I knew nothing about Google Hangouts, but Alex said, hey, you need to be there. I'm like, okay. I have learned when Alex tells me to be somewhere, I better be there. And who did I get to meet but you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it is. I think it's your intuition, too. Your intuition guided you, even though Alex suggested it, you knew, just like you knew that you were eventually going to own your own business. There's this innate knowing that we know, and it really is trusting that,
Mm-hmm. Yes, learning to trust it, that's the big key, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's why we're here.
Very cool. So as you have trusted your intuition, Jenny, how have you been able to create more income in your life?
Well, a lot of it has been, being guided to do the right things, right? So when I looked at the freelance writing that I was doing, it wasn't all that lucrative, so trusting that seminars was the right step, and then trusting when Alex and I were in that Guerrilla Marketing Coach Certification Program, one of our assignments was you pick your niche. And we were having a little coaching call with the two of us, and I said, okay, here are my 3 choices. Which one do you think? Because I could do all 3 of them. And he's like, oh, I would go with the seminar one. But, yeah, that feels good. I like seminars. I could see building a career around it. And that has led to me focusing, the next, gosh, I don't know how many, or 13 years on promoting events specifically. So that's a really big and obvious way. On a more subtle way, it's tuning in and just, paying attention. It guides me to the people that I should call. After one position that I had ended, I went to work for a client for a while, and it was both one of the best decisions and one of the worst decisions that I had. So I followed my intuition there, and it was bad from the financial point of view. Like, it really took me away from the rest of my business, but on the soul level, it was one of the best things I could have done, because being in that role, like, as a human, it was really, really hard. But on a soul level, it helped me break out of so many things.
Mm-hmm.
And that has translated into saying no to certain types of jobs and clients, really learning to value myself, knowing where to put boundaries, and that has all had an effect on income. You know,
Mm-hmm.
thinking of a client who wants things with an unreasonable time demand or for too low of a price. Because of that experience specifically, I now am able to say, you know what, no, I value myself too much. I value the time with my kids far more than I value the tiny little amount of money I would get by saying yes to you. So it really helped me shift that way. There's not
Mm-hmm.
like the direct, oh, I did this and then I made $1 million, but, and someday I'm waiting for that one, but
It's a
it,
process,
you know,
right?
it's a process, exactly. But it's helped as a pattern overall in my life that I needed to work through and break.
Yeah.
Other ways intuition has helped, you know, I'll have just like this idea, oh, I should call so and so. And after that one position had ended, I just had this thought, oh, I should, you know, I haven't talked to this woman for a while. I should give her a call and see how she's doing. And we had, you know, a 10-minute check-in call. She was really busy. We talked for a little bit. She didn't have a lot of time to talk. And the next day she called. I'm like, oh my gosh, she said, I'm so sorry. I didn't really get to talk to you, but I'm glad that we connected because I realized I have something that you can help me with. And that something you can help me with turned into 3 years of work with a client. So it paid to make that phone call. So I try to
Absolutely.
listen, you know, who are the people who keep popping into mind and learning, yeah, you should probably call them because there's probably a reason why they're showing up right now.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny. I just got a call yesterday from somebody. I don't even know how she found my information. And she's like, I was just guided to call you, you know, and she's actually an expert on the show now. And it was just kind of like, it really is, it's spirit. And Melody LeBaron, she is like a space creator. She works with feng shui. And she said
Okay.
space actually creates and activates that energy, you know, that spirit guides us, you know, to make those intuitive decisions.
Oh.
And it's just so magical and fun, you know, when we see and follow that.
Yes, and that has been the key for me is learning to follow that versus ignoring it. You know, that's
Yeah,
something I think it's a process, like you said, constantly practicing following it.
yeah. Jenny, you mentioned something about valuing yourself. I would love for you to share more about that. I feel like that as an entrepreneur, that is something very foundational and very important for us to truly understand ourselves and the value we bring and how to set ourselves up for success in business.
Okay, well, it is an important thing, and I will say it's something that I am constantly working on. It's a process, another one of those processes, right? And it's something I've really, you know, the personal development work I've done has really helped with it because I would say the pattern I came in that I practiced for far too long was to be kind of a doormat. Like if you have a need, I am here for you. And part of it is I have you know, I love people. I love to help them. I hate to see people suffering or distressed. And I have very much a social worker heart. In high school, when you do your aptitude testing, all of my tests came back saying you should be a social worker. And now I'm a marketer. So the way I see that played out is whenever somebody has a need, it is like hitting this deep core to me. Well, if you have a need and I know how I can help you, well, then I have to help you. And that's where I can get into trouble. Like it's very much my nature. I love to help. I love people, but I can tip over too far into you know, giving too much of myself. So
Mhm.
one thing I've really had to learn in business, especially with balancing it with family and balancing multiple clients, is how do you strike that balance where you're being a good business person, you're taking excellent care of your clients, but you're not tipping over so far that you're destroying yourself or your family and your quality of life in the process. And
Mhm.
for me, that was really learning to value yourself. And what was really critical in that is having that understanding that we're imperfect. We're human beings. We all have things that we can work on to become better people or lessons that we're here to learn. But that doesn't mean that because we're not, quote, perfect, that there's something wrong with us, that we're not just simply fantastic the way they are. And it's
Mhm.
something you kind of have to wrap your head around and really accept that you can be imperfect and still want to better yourself, but you're absolutely fantastic the way you are.
Mhm.
And I had attended a few of Jack Canfield's seminars. I've worked with him for about 3 years working for his company and have immersed myself in his teachings. And that has been probably the biggest thing that I learned by studying with him is just this idea that we are divinity. You know, we're divine beings having the human experience, as the saying goes, and that really strikes a chord with me. So it's really learning to love yourself and celebrate yourself as you are, and knowing that, yeah, you're going to have mistakes, and yeah, you're going to mess things up, and yeah, you're not perfect, but you're still simply freaking fantastic, right?
I love that. That is like so you, and so just the message that I love to hear, and I know supports a lot of people. Yeah, I don't know what to say other than I agree.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing I've been trying to teach my kids, it's a Jack technique, or at least I learned it from him, so who knows, is to keep a success journal. So every day I have a journal in which I write down 5 successes for the day, and then I just fill up the rest of the page with gratitude. So different things. And sometimes it's 5 items, sometimes it's 10. It's just how big those items on the list are. And I've been trying to teach my kids that as well, that celebrate every success. And they look at me like I have 3 heads, like, what are you talking about, Mom? Like, hey, maybe you start with you got dressed today. If that's your success, so be it. And it was something I was just talking to my coaching group yesterday about, is that as entrepreneurs, I resonate with some of my clients in that they say, you know, we'll set this big goal for the week. Like, we're going to put up a sales page. And then when you get into it, you realize that sales page is actually like 20 mini goals that have to happen before you can get the sales page up. And it's so easy to fall into this you know, this feeling of despair, like, oh, I'm never going to get it done. I can't get that big thing checked off my list. And what we talked about is just celebrate the little successes. Every day you're taking some sort of progress toward your goal. And maybe it's a success like you handled a call well with a client. Maybe the success is that you came up with a great idea for an email. Maybe the success is you got yourself out of a total funk and back into being productive. I mean, look for those things and pat yourself on the back and cheer yourself on. To me, it's really, you have to almost mother yourself. You know, that's what our moms do for us, right? In their eyes, we're perfect, and they're there to be our cheerleaders, but you need to learn how to do that for yourself.
Yeah, there was a man named Robert McPhee, and I believe he worked with Jack Canfield, and he wrote a book on, I think, manifesting for non-gurus. And he said something to me one time. He's like, and it might have been in the book, that he said if you were just to tell yourself everything you wanted to hear, your life would be so much better. And so I started doing that last night. Like, I couldn't sleep, and I was like, well, I'm just going to tell myself what I want to hear.
That's right.
Why not, you know?
Absolutely, and it's really helpful. Like, I have found I fell away from the practice for a little while, and I've recently started it back up, and it's amazing what a little shift it can be just to acknowledge your successes and really value what you bring to the table. You know, tell yourself you're doing a great job. You're awesome. I mean, good for you for doing that. And I found that the more I can love myself and be okay with who I am and be a good cheerleader for myself, the easier it is for me to set boundaries with clients where needed. And it's not like that I have horrible clients. I have awesome clients. It's really fantastic. But for me especially, it seems that in this lifetime, this is the thing I have to practice, is not being almost codependent where, oh, if you have a need, oh, here, let me do whatever it takes to take care of you, and ignoring what it will do to me. And I think that's a good attitude to kind of be aware of as you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to grow your business, that you also want to have a quality of life. I think most people get into business for themselves mostly for that quality of life. You know, you don't want to just work, work, work. You want to have a great life. You want to have relationships. You want to take good care of yourself. And those things will then make it easier, I think, to tune into your intuition and get the guidance that you need as well.
Yeah, it's true, you know, because intuition is our divine connection to our divine source. So if we're constantly beating ourselves down or overworking or not valuing ourselves, the connection's always there. It's just harder to hear it. And so, you know, that's why you even said about being calm and quiet, you know, that's the first step. And then it's like, you know, one of the steps. And the other, you know, piece of it is to really, honor who you are. And when you are loving yourself, you're in harmony with the divine, which is love.
Ah, you make it all so clear. Sounds so easy.
Been doing it a long time. So very cool. So Jenny, is there anything else you want to share with our audience just about who you are and how you can support them on their entrepreneurial journey?
Oh gosh, that's a really good question. How can I support you? I mean, really, if you are struggling to get your message out, or if you want to learn more about events, I'm absolutely here. I mean, give me a call. There are ways that you can reach out to me. And I hope that you'll stay in touch. I can kind of look at the world like you're just strangers or friends you haven't met yet, right? And I want to know people.
Mm-hmm.
When you're doing your, from a copywriting perspective, something else that I can share is, yes, tune into your intuition, and don't get hung up on thinking it has to be perfect, or if something doesn't work the way that you hope, that means you're wrong. I think one of the things I have learned with my intuition, I'll listen to it, and sometimes it goes like completely off. Like, what happened? I was listening to my intuition. Why isn't it working the way that I wanted? And that's where, like, I find myself sometimes getting frustrated, like, but I'm so clear that this is what I was supposed to do. And for me, it's been, well, just because you know that you were guided and you were following your intuition and it didn't turn out the way you wanted doesn't mean that you aren't getting something from the experience. That's been kind of an interesting thing for me to accept, that sometimes things, I'm guided a certain way, but it was more the experience I needed to have. It wasn't necessarily the outcome that I wanted. So say, for example, you do a campaign and it doesn't work the way that you wanted and you don't get the income that you want. I mean, sometimes that can be really quite frustrating, right? Mm-hmm. But for me, the bigger, you take a step back. What else is there in this experience for me? And maybe that's why I was guided to have it. Mm-hmm. For example, I had a joint venture with somebody a few years ago, and it seemed like on one level it was supposed to be a good thing. And so I proceeded with it. This would actually be a better example of when maybe you're not listening to your intuition, you're overriding it. Like, it started out, I knew I was supposed to have it, but then at some point, it was more I was talking myself into it. I wasn't listening to my intuition. My intuition was saying, oh, bad experience, but my head was saying everything up until now has been fine, go ahead with it. And so I kept going ahead and kept going ahead and kept going ahead, and it turned out to be a complete disaster. So it's one of those, like, for me at least, learning to distinguish between your head talking you into something that looks good versus your gut sometimes telling you, no, don't go that way. Mm-hmm. And then I've had experiences where you're guided to do something with someone and it doesn't turn out quite the way you want, but like I said, if you take a step back, you can see it can be a real gift. Working for one of my clients, like I said earlier in the call, on one level it really was not such a good choice, but it was such a gift for me on a soul level, being able to break free of some patterns.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think you said it. I too have had experiences like that where, if I find myself attached to a certain outcome or end result, I'm very disappointed, and I am still learning to really trust and just know that whatever it was that I was meant to get from that experience, I got. And then it's my intuitive awareness to find out what that was if I don't have it yet. If I need to, contemplate and say, what was the gift? Like you shared that one client, that's really the experience that you learned how to value yourself. And so, quite frankly, money probably couldn't put a price on that, because now it's paved the way for that, many more clients that you're acting differently now because you learned that lesson. So, yeah, I hear you, and I feel like, it's almost a battle. We feel our intuition. It's like, oh, can I trust it? Because you're having to let go so much. But it's like, it's amazing. It's yesterday, I live right by the beach, so I get to run and walk on it every day, and I felt the sun come through, and I literally just felt this complete alignment. And I just heard this voice say, like, you aren't anything other than this. Like, any experience, everything. Like, just drop your identity, like you are just one with the light. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, it's a relief. We don't have to prove anything. We don't have to have any certain thing happen. But what will support us is just to trust the light, to trust the love, even if our mind gets scared or doesn't understand.
Boy, isn't that the truth? Yeah, learning to trust it even when you're scared is a big thing. Mm-hmm. It's a really big thing. And part of it, I think, goes back to, can you just love yourself? Mm-hmm. And can you calm and attune to your intuition? Absolutely. Because, the mind can play some pretty good games with us, can it?
Yeah, it's so interesting. I'm actually still fascinated with that, even as the intuitive that I am. It's like I noticed my mind, and yesterday I did the same thing. It's like intuitively I knew to wait, but it was like my mind was like on this momentum, like just keep going. And then of course, like nothing wrong happened. It just what ended up happening is exactly what I intuitively felt. So I just had to like ride the wave and let it do its thing. But it's hard, I was mentioning before, it's about letting go of control and thinking we know, and just trusting.
Yeah, in one way I see that playing out. I was, again, talking to my coaching group. This came up last night that so many of us should, you learn that you should create a schedule for your day. And this is how it came up, this group of very intuitive people that I'm working with. We try to be disciplined and we create our schedules the night before. And I have learned with myself that if I get up and get to my desk and I see what I have planned for the day and it doesn't feel right, to give myself permission to just trust that whatever I am being guided to do instead, it's okay, as long as it's not like truly fear-based, like I don't want to do this because I'm scared, so I'm going to distract myself with cleaning my office or going for a run or something. But other than that, really tuning in is that my intuition guiding me to do something different than what I had thought I could. Because there was a day where I'm like, doggone it, no, I planned this and I'm going to get this done. And boy, if I'm not listening to my intuition, if I'm overriding it in favor of what my mind is telling me I have to do, it gets so much harder. And things don't usually work as well versus if I just take a step back and say, I'm throwing the plan out and doing something different.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like, because it's all vibration and it's all flow, that's why, and I think that's why we have to be flexible, like, like yoga teaches us physically, but flexible in our being, that if we're all vibration and it's all changing and we have a certain plan and the energy shifts, well, we flow with it in harmony. That's what our intuition guides us to. But it's so hard. I mean, like I shared too, it's challenging, but it is. I really agree with you that it's the foundation of loving yourself and from that place moving into that trust.
Yeah. I will take your words of wisdom and practice that some more.
I'm taking them too. That's what I love about this. It just flows through. So, so it's all good. So, Jenny, is there a free gift that you have that you can offer everyone just to, take that next step with you?
Yes, actually, I put together a few so that you can get some additional support, especially if you want to do seminars. I say seminars, but really the marketing strategies and approach that you would use to promote a live event with people in a room with you are the same that you would use to do a teleseminar, a webinar, even a hangout, right? All the strategies are the same. So I put together a little collection of things for those who are interested in it. And you can see details at seminarmarketingpro.com/Abby, A-B-B-Y. And what you'll see there, you can sign up to get, it's 31 secrets to jumpstart your seminar marketing. So 31 of my tips in a PDF report. There is a CD, an audio program called Introduction to Seminar Marketing. And what I did was recorded this audio with all of the questions that I hear time and time and time again from people who are brand new to event marketing. So those who are following, I mean, really, it's following their intuition that says, you need to do an event. So they decide they're doing an event, and then they realize they have no idea what to do next. They don't have a list. They don't really even know what the topic's going to be. They don't know how to reach out to people. So I kept listening to the same questions over and over again, and this CD answers all of those for you. You'll get a subscription to my weekly newsletter, so that's where I send out weekly tips and strategies, talk about what's going on, what's new and hot in the industry. You also get a coupon if you want to go further into your education into how to promote an event. You get 30% off my home study course, and that course walks you through how to create your marketing plan and figure out how you're going to reach your audience, maybe who that audience actually is, and then how do you create your marketing messages. And included with that course is my critique of your marketing materials. So the goal is you go through the program, you create your plan and your marketing materials, then you send it to me and I give you very pointed but very gentle feedback so that you get really good ideas of what you can do to take it even higher. And then you also, if you would like, have 30 minutes with me to talk about what your vision is, what you need to do to achieve that vision. And if it's working with me, great. And if it's not, that's totally great too. I am happy to support you by connecting you with other people in the industry, or even to tell you yes or no, don't do it. So if I can serve you, let's please stay in touch. Go to that page, you can get signed up for those, but then let's connect on social media too so we can continue the conversation.
Jenny, thank you so much. That is such, I mean, I can feel it in my heart. That's above and beyond any type of gift. That's incredible value. So I hope everyone definitely takes her up on that who's feeling called to do that, because that's incredible. And she's incredible. So, yeah, I recommend her highly. So Jenny, we're actually going to put a link so everybody can get to that, just so everybody knows, because I know I was smiling and talking because I could feel the energy of it. So we'll have that link for you where you guys can click on and access Jenny's free gift. So just know that's there for you. And again, Jenny, thank you so much. Like, wow, what an incredible journey and experience. And if there was one thing that you could leave our audience with, what would that be?
One thing is really appreciate yourself. Like you said, you know, you've said ever since we first met, I seem to have this message of self-love, and that's been the big thing I've had to learn in my lifetime so far, is really celebrate who you are. I mean, take stock of everything that you've done and really appreciate yourself, because that's where it all starts. Because you're awesome, right?
Aw, you're awesome, Jenny girl. Well, thank you for being here, Jenny, and thanks everyone for joining us, and we will see you next time. All right, take care. Bye, everyone.
Thanks.